So we're about to hit a milestone. We're closing in on 1,200 subscribers, which kind of blows me away. I really didn't expect this channel to take off, and I certainly didn't expect it to take off this fast. So thank you all for who subscribed. I thought it was actually a good milestone and an opportunity to reintroduce myself. There's a lot of new people in the Watchmosphere, and sort of talk about my philosophy and also answer some questions. We've had some interesting conversations happen. I'm winging this a little bit. Clearly, I am not at home. I'm in a hotel. I had to go back to my hometown a couple weeks ago. My father took a turn and his dementia got worse, and I had to put him in a nursing home. And this week I'm back home to close up my parents' house and get it sold. And it's been very interesting. Full disclosure, my mother had a hoarding compulsion. And so I'm cleaning out 50 some years of hoarding. And my father, I think after she died in 2018, was just so overwhelmed. He couldn't deal with it. He also was kind of picking it up a little bit too, but he really couldn't handle it. It was overwhelming. I mean, I'm overwhelmed and I have 3 professionals helping me clean this out right now. But it is an interesting experience to basically have to throw most of your documentation of your life, of your childhood, into a dumpster because there's just no time. There was a lot of stuff's really not salvageable anyway, but I don't have time to go through literally thousands of photographs. And I mean, I found canceled checks from 1971. It's unbelievable the amount of documents and things you have to find for this. And I can't find the deed to the house. I can't find the titles to their cars. It's been a bit comical in many ways, but I found some interesting things though that I'm taking out, and it's been very strange. But that's part of why I have been a little bit late on content recently. I've been very distracted, and this was very unexpected. I literally had to drop everything 3 weeks ago in the middle of a meeting and board my dogs, all 3 dogs, and drive 4 hours to my hometown. And it's been basically back and forth ever since. And so this week I'm here and we're halfway through and I'm almost done with this week. But Dad gets to move into assisted living on Thursday. So it's worked out pretty well. So just by way of introduction though, my name is Mitch. I work as a creative director for a corporation. I what is called in-house, and manage the creative services function for the company. I also on the side have been writing. I started this channel, been doing a lot of creative endeavors. For a while there, I was making art out of paint chips you get from paint stores. So always something creative. My watch collection, I think, is reflective of that. I got into watches officially 1985. I bought Swatch Pinstripe from the 85 collection. And that's really what got me going into it. And kind of been going off and on ever since. So watches have always been fascinating to me. My grandfather took me aside at one point because I asked him what the Cyclops lens did on his watch, and he had a bull of a Super Seville, and I think it was the president. And he walked me through the whole thing, and it got me interested in watches. I was always interested in clocks, but then watches were like little clocks on your wrist. It was cool. And so I've had watches as a kid, but then that Swatch was the first one I bought for myself. I started this channel in particular because I was seeing too much normalization that $5,000, $10,000 is what you should spend on a watch. And I know some of this is rage bait, but when people have a thumbnail that says the most affordable $10,000 watches, it's like, you know damn good and well that is not affordable. It's like, oh, I spend $10,000 on breakfast every day. It's like, no, you don't. But it irritated me because there was a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of punching down, I think, on consumer brands. And this idea somehow that if you are collecting in consumer brands, then you don't have a collection. In fact, one of the comments I had gotten was in one of my videos was when I talked about how my watch collection had been stolen. Well, my watch collection was made up mostly of fossil watches and a gas and a diesel. And at the time, that's what I could afford. My first job out of college, by the way, paid $12,000 a year. So when you make a career as a creative, you pay your dues. early on. I'm doing well now, but it took a long time to get here. And you pay your dues. The first 8 to 10 years can be really rough. And so that's, I started my career in public television. You're not going to get paid a lot. That was the watch price point for me. And so somebody had said, oh, you could have just gotten one good Seiko. Well, no, I couldn't have, because I didn't have $500. When my rent at the time was $350 a month, there's no way I was spending $500 on a watch. That wasn't going to happen. And so that's part of it, was like, no, I couldn't have spent $500 on a Seiko, because if I had $40 to spend on a watch, that's what I had to spend on a watch. That was it, because budgeting was very tight. And so this idea somehow that, oh, you should just do that, to me, it's like, I like variety. I like to have a lot of different watches. And so that's where I come in from collecting. I feel like all roads lead to a watch collection. I'm not one to dump on specific brands. And to be honest, just to sort of level set, I have had people come into the comments and attack me personally for liking or questioning a certain brand, and then also dumping on the brand. It's like, oh, it's crap, it's garbage. Well, if you do that, if you make personal attacks to me, I'm just going to delete you and block you. We're not having a conversation. If you're coming after a specific brand, I'm going to ask for your receipts. Period. What's the problem? Don't tell me a specific brand is garbage if you've never bought one. This was one of the things with the AliExpress video I did, which kind of monetized this whole channel. It continues to blow up. A lot of people, one guy just said, idiot. That's his only comment to me on that video. But people said, oh, you just bought junk. One guy said, there's one that's really funny from that video where he said, you bought $1,700 worth of garbage, and I bought $1,700 worth of gold. And my response, I think, is actually hilarious and brilliant. So if you happen to look through that, it features a monkey butler and a Birkin bag filled with gold. It's pretty funny. I do like to write. And so sometimes I like to write comments that are a little smart ass. If you don't own a watch from a particular brand, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't say that. You can't say that something's bad if you've never had an experience with it. If you've never owned it, you can't say that. A lot of these watches that the Chinese companies are making are really good. And if you think about it, the Swiss manufacturers have been sending their CAD files to these Chinese manufacturers for years now. And I think they could sign an NDA with the manufacturer. But if you're working with a manufacturer in China, you're working indirectly with the Chinese government. So I'm sure the Chinese government was like, give us all your CAD files and we're going to build the perfect watch. And that's why these watches keep getting better and better, because they have all the Swiss manufacturers' CAD files. And they just take one from here and one from here and one from here, and they just put them together. And that's how they figured it out. So one of the comments I get frequently is, why do you talk about luxury brands if you're a 3-figure collector? Good question. The reason why is luxury brands, but specifically prestige luxury and ultra luxury brands, drive the entire market. What those companies do, the entire industry follows in some way, and you'll see it trickle down. So I do think it's important to discuss it. Also, if you look at the revenue versus units sold, and you look at it based on the breakdown of categories, units sold, 75% of all units sold in watches globally come from consumer brands. So 25% of all watches sold come out of luxury. Well, then why are there something like 7 categories of luxury? There's quite a few. I mean, you could really slice and dice that. Well, the reason why is because 75% of all revenue comes from luxury brands, which is why when you look at some of the conglomerates, Swatch Group in particular, they're very heavily weighted into that attainable luxury premium consumer area. And the reality is that the more expensive watches that are priced at a higher price point, you don't have to make as many, because do you want to sell 1,000 watches at you know, a dollar a piece, or do you want to sell one watch at 1,000? And so that's one of the reasons why I really talk about it a lot. One of the things I did say in one of my videos was a lot of Swatch Group brands don't have relevance in the culture. And I would say that's true for a lot of brands. And I would say it's true for brands outside of watches. I think luxury brands in general are struggling with relevance outside the culture. You can kind of see what's happening right now in the sort of the luxury fashion labels. And this sort of, they just did this musical chairs where everybody changed creative directors and they basically all just went somewhere else. But it's the same guys doing this, and women, I guess. There's some women who just go from one brand to another. But the reality is that Balenciaga, Dior, YSL, Givenchy, Chloe, Chanel, they have had a different client when those people who were running those brands were alive. They had a very different client than they do now. And that's, I think, the same thing here with watches. It's hard for a brand to have relevance in the market when the market shifts so much. There's just too many brands. There's too many. And some of them are going to fall away. Because if you look at what happened with Swatch Group, they've had a decline. But I do think some of the decline is still seeing signs of a general economy cooling off overall. And also we had this huge bubble during the quarantine. Swatch is moving too far away from their base client, their base customer. So this recent moon swatch that came out was, I think it was Moonshine Gold with the Snoopy. It was real cute. I stood in line for 3 hours to not get a watch. Yes. I don't know what they were thinking. I swear my Swatch store only sold probably 60 watches. And then they said we were out. And there were literally 500 people in line, at least, if not more. And the first guy in the door got there at 11 p.m. the night before. It was really cool. I actually really liked that one. I would like to have had it. They're on eBay now for $2,000. That's not happening. But one of the things that they did was, while we were standing in line, well, first off, when they announced it was going to be $380. And I was like, that's a bridge too far. I like the colors quite a bit. And I thought, yeah, this would be a fun one to have. But then, like a few days before launch, it was $400. And that's when I was like, you're pushing me here. I don't know. So then we're standing in line. I get there at 8. And about 8:45, someone says, they just raised the price to $450. While we were standing in line, they raised the price to $450. Now, obviously, I'm in Central Time Zone. So I'm assuming by this time Europe had already done their buying frenzy. But then the other thing too we noticed was at 9 o'clock we started seeing these, because I'm in Central Time, New York's in Eastern Time. We started seeing these go up on eBay within minutes, like 3 minutes after 9. We started seeing them come up on eBay, and they started at like 600. And by the time I got home, it was up to 2,000, 2,500. Now they're dropping their prices. But if you pay $2,000 for one of these, you are freaking crazy. 450 was, I almost got out of line at that point. I do like the idea of these collaborations, but they have other brands in the Swatch Group that they could collaborate with. I mentioned in one video, the Rindanaple would be a great collaboration with Breguet. I think it would be great. I'm not sure how everybody feels about that, but it would at least bring some more attention to this really, really venerable brand that everyone should know about. Even if you're not into watches, everyone should know about Breguet and this particular watch. But also, I thought Hamilton's was called Ventura, the little Men in Black one. That one lends itself to Swatch. I think they could have a lot of fun with that too. They have other opportunities there. These watches, obviously, the thing is Swatch is a marketing company. Really, it's always been a marketing company. I'm wearing a Swatch today. This one's called Dazed by Daisies. And I got this from a dealer in Spain, secondary market. I don't think they sold this in the United States, or at least not in this color, but my mom's favorite flowers were daisies. And since I'm here at the house and I'm basically throwing our life in the dumpster, I thought it would be nice to sort of have my mom with me in a way. So I do think Swatch for me, I have a lot of affection for this brand. Having said that, standing in line for 3 hours to not get a watch, when I stood in that line, I knew there was a distinct possibility I would not get a watch. I was perfectly fine with that. I was not fine with the price changing while we stood in line. And then beyond that, too, when I got there, I counted 50 people in front of me at 8 o'clock when I got there. By the time they moved the line, there was over 110 people in front of me because people were holding space. And then 5 of their best friends came, and then they all went in together and bought a watch, and then they all collected them and put them up on eBay. And the friends got paid probably $50 or $100. So that was disappointing to me. And I think that was something that Swatch could easily have rectified by just doing pre-order. Just do pre-order. You can do pre-order and still have to show up at the store. Just say pre-order. That's what, I mean, a lot of my limited edition watches, my Spinnaker watches that I just got were all pre-order. The SpongeBob's, the Popeye, those were all pre-order. Just do that. Or when people get it to the store, make them pull a ticket. It's like, here's your ticket. You're number 1. If you're number 20 in line and 5 of your best friends show up, their ticket is 400 through 405. Good luck to you, right? And I know for a fact that this happened because there is a vendor or a dealer on eBay right now who's showing 5 of these watches. It's only supposed to be 1 per person. So how did he end up with 5? Because he had 4 friends go with him. And then he paid them to stand in line to buy a watch. And then he's charging now $2,000 for these watches. He's out of London. I'm not going to put him up because I don't want to promote him. I would have liked to have had it. It's not the end of the world. It's very much a first world problem. I can live with that. But, whatever. Speaking of, one of the things that comes up frequently in my comments is I am often taken aback by that attitude again of the most affordable $10,000 watches. I come from an impoverished background. My parents were what we used to call working poor. These are the 2 hardest working people I have ever met in my life. They truly were. But I would describe them as being aspirationally poor. They worked real hard at it, and they had their reasons for that. There was a lot of, there was a lot of stuff they were working through. Wonderful people, sweetest people, kindest people. In fact, when my mother died, the thing people said to me over and over again was, your mother was so kind to me. Not your mother was kind, right? It was your mother was so kind to me. It was very personal. And I just thought, wow, that's the legacy right there. That's a great legacy to live up to. But again, though, we did without. I know what it is to live without electricity for 2 weeks. I know how to make a toilet flush when the water's been shut off. There is a trick to it. I know what it is to have to go to the neighbors with 2 buckets and ask if you can fill up the buckets with water in their spigot. And then being really angry that I'm having to do that. But now as an adult, I understand why my mom would have me do that instead of her, because she was too embarrassed to do it. So I understand that. I understand what that is. And it wasn't for them not working. My parents worked all the time. Why they had no money, I have no idea. When I'm looking at watch collecting, the thing for me I'm often fascinated by is what is the mental gymnastics someone has to do when they start going up in price? Because I'm having to recognize now that if I am a 3-figure collector and these prices are going up, a lot of the brands that I buy are saying that they're going to have to start raising the prices because of the tariffs. And so until we get through this little trade war that someone decided to have with the entire world, I'm probably going to have to raise my cap. I don't know that I can get away with 3 figures anymore for everything. I mean, some of the watches I recently bought were on the higher end for me. And for me, I start questioning whether I want to watch or not if it's $400 or more. So when I say 3 figures, that's my threshold. Is when I go over 400, I start debating it. And so I have to think about that. But now I'm getting to the point where it's like, I'm going to have to really think, am I going to buy fewer watches at higher prices? And probably will. That's probably going to be my thing. But I do come at this from a perspective that I can't imagine. There's a wonderful jewelry store in the area called CD Peacock. And I went to get a bracelet resized because I usually resize my own bracelets, but this one was unique and I needed like a 2 thing. Couldn't figure it out. And I was afraid I was going to mess it up. So I had them do it. And while I'm there, was standing next to, went to the Breguet section, and they had 3 Reine de Naples there. And I had just done the video about that. And man, they're pretty. They're so pretty. And so the lead sales guy has his Breguet guy come over, and we start talking. And then we end up over at Parmigiani Fleurier, which is another one of my favorite brands I cannot afford. But wow, those are pretty. And I didn't touch anything. Let me tell you, he had gloves on. I didn't touch anything. But he took everything out and he showed me. And he showed the one, and I can't remember what it's called. I keep wanting to call it Rapunzel, and that's not what it's called. Rapunte or something. I can't remember. But it's the one that has the 2 hour hands, and you can set the second hour hand so that if you have like if you're trying to figure out where you are in the world, if it's like 6 p.m. your time and it's 8 p.m. someone else's time, you have 6 p.m. and you have 8 p.m. And he showed me how that worked. It was so cool. It was so cool. And those watches are gorgeous anyway. And I seriously could just, every time I go there, I'm like, you're going to make me buy a watch I can't afford. It's just that I can't wrap my head around it. I cannot wrap my head around spending that much money on a watch. And it just comes back to, for me, could I spend $15,000 on a watch now? Yeah. Will I? No. I'd rather have it in an index fund. I think it's too risky. And I'd rather, I'm invested in redoing my house, or you have to have for me, I'd have to have a lot of expendable income or disposable income. I forget that phrase. And in order to do that comfortably. But then actually that leads me to the next question, which is, if money was no object, which watch would you want? And the first one that comes to mind is the Rolex 1908 with blue dial. Because that was the one where that came out a few months after I had just gotten a quote from my general contractor on redoing my kitchen, my downstairs bathroom. And it came in at about $31,000. And I was like, maybe not right now. Maybe we'll do it later. And then that watch came out and it's like, it's only $31,000. I can swing it. I'll make it work. And then I stopped myself and said, well, dude, you have a problem. You've got a problem. You need to stop this. And I just kind of had to laugh. So that would be the first one. There is the one, the Rolex Daytona Rainbow in rose gold. That's a rainbow bezel. I really love that. However, I have a Duxo homage to that watch that scratches that itch perfectly for me. And it's from their Accelero line. And it's a really good watch. It's a really well-made watch. So I'm fine with that. I also got this Reef Tiger that I think was supposed to be based on Patek Philippe's perpetual calendar. And I accidentally pulled the crown completely out of it. I don't think it's necessary. This watch has always felt a little delicate to me. I haven't gotten it fixed yet. I do want to get it fixed, but I didn't spend that much money on it. And now in order to replace it, it's 2.5 times higher than what I spent on AliExpress. But I do like it. It's so tacky. It is so ostentatious. It's like, it's just ridiculous the amount of like sapphires it's got on it, and the rainbow and the red sunray dial. And it's insane. It is insane. But I do like that one too. It was funny as I was looking through, because one of the next videos I'm going to do is, I was going to do my top 10 most worn watches of the year so far. And the problem is I have about 50 some watches, and I've worn them all, and I couldn't do top 10. So I have to do them all. So I'm going to just do like, I guess it's state of the collection or something. I guess that's what they call it. And I'll just go through everything I wore and count them down. Cause it is actually kind of interesting, but I think when you see my collection, you'll see I collect in a very, very broad manner. I think pinning me down as a collector would be challenging. So, yeah. So, at any rate, thank you all for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I've got more content coming. I actually have a really interesting video I've been working on for a while about Junghans Max Bill watches. A lot of people say they don't know why they like them, but they do. And then people will go after a brand like Movement, which is very minimal, and they don't know why they don't like Movement. Well, I have an idea, and I'm working through this now, and it's coming soon. This is one required a little more research. So that one's coming soon. And then this one I just talked about was my most worn watches of the year so far. So more to come. I need for my life to settle. I need to get all this down. I've been pushing shorts out to just keep content coming, but more to come. There is more coming. So stick with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a like and a thumbs up. And until next time, stay complicated, and I will see you in the Watchmosphere. Have a good day.